Today, I want to talk about my experience in the Imminent domain raid, the second one in the Retaliator and Bonesaw cycle, talk about the points I earned, the techniques that I use for that, show my builds for my fleets, and talk about what changes, if any, I'm going to do to my fleets between this raid and next raid. Hey everyone, Derpy here, and welcome back to another Battle Pirates video. So just getting started, I did not necessarily enjoy this raid as much as the previous one in the Retaliator Bonesaw cycle. These ships are getting just a little bit old for me, and I'm afraid that the 3-month cycle actually makes things a little bit less exciting because we have holes more often. Noteworthy prizes in this event are not really much. All we got are upgrades, enhancements, and escalation tech for the current ships we have. I did end up getting about 97 million points, which put me at about 1,000th globally, which I don't know what number one here did with. Is that a billion points? 1 million points? No clue what they did with those. Overall, I got basically everything I wanted, and to be honest, when I hit these targets, I did full sets of the top target, including both the Bonesaw targets and the Retaliator ones. I autoed basically every single 102 after the first day. I autoed basically every single 1202 and 1203 target with the Bonesaw. Got about 1 hour of damage on the 1202 with the Bonesaw, that was not too bad, and 2 hours of damage with the 1203 on the Bonesaw. I could drive it for 1 hour, auto it for 2. I chose to auto it for 2 hours because, like I said, the targets are not that exciting to me and there's no great way to mitigate damage. The 103 was the interesting one, and this was honestly the one I was forced to drive the most. Even though my build is designed for auto, there are a few things that I'll talk about, including having mortars on my ships, which make it just a little bit difficult to do. I did, however, auto some of these targets, just about 2 hours on damage on auto if you got lucky, came in at about 3 o'clock. Otherwise, it took a lot more than that. Sometimes the fleet even got stuck. I think that only happened once. But I did drive quite a few of these things. My lowest repair was 8 minutes, which is not quite instant base, but is pretty close. And that was because I was upgrading one of my ships, so I have less stuff in the fleet to take splash damage. It took me longer to complete, but I did get one down for 8 minutes. Other than that, it was 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so. Occasionally 2 or 3 minutes on the flag, but not too bad for the 103. And that was kind of my experience, autoing as many things as I could. I would log on in the morning, auto a bunch of stuff with 2 fleets, log off for a few hours, come back, and kind of repeat stuff and drive 103s when I had the chance. Like I said, I did do about 50 targets of everything, which was not too exciting. You know, the first few times you're hitting the target, you get the damage down and you're trying to get that instant base repair, whatever you're trying to get to. That's exciting, but beyond that is not too much. In terms of prizes, I got basically everything I wanted. I completely ignored the cruise. The ability to spend 5 million points to get a crew that will make your fleet better at earning the next 5 million points seems a little bit silly, although we do end up doing that for things like the chests and the enhancements and stuff like that. I do have 8 million extra points, so I will go ahead and buy 2 Bonesaw officer chests. We can open those up and talk about the chest experience in this raid. But I did get the capital cores. I did even get the Bonesaw. It's kind of hidden and very difficult to find. I did even get the evolution kits for the Bonesaw, even though I don't actually know how many I have. I will talk about that briefly with the build and the changes between now and next raid. But I got all the limited stuff that we actually need to get. What I did not do is spend time getting chests for the Bonesaw because I found that those would not necessarily be worth it. Actually, these are just the Wraith. Yeah, the Wraith armor chests. I did not actually get these, and in fact, in the Forsaken mission, the R one for radioactive actually drops ballistic, and the C one for ballistic actually drops radioactive. I don't know if that's the case in the raid, just something to watch out for. I definitely don't have all legendary armor, and I could have used the points. I just didn't see the point in getting something that might just get me common armor or something else kind of silly that I already have. Although if I had the extra time and had an extra day or two and desire to play the raid, I probably would have. I did pick up a ton of tokens, including all the upgrade and build ones for the current fleet Retaliators, as well as the Bonesaw ones, if those were in there. To be honest with you, I can't necessarily remember, but I could scroll down and check under owned here and see what I did get. You can see the Bonesaw kits, and by the way, I hate the scroll bar here. I wish Kixeye would change it. I put in a suggestions feedback thing, and they deleted it because someone else put one in there already about making the scroll wheel work for the mouse, which I think is a worse idea, but that's beyond the point. Like you can see here, I did get a bunch of Bonesaw fragments. There were 20 available, and I got all of them. That will bring my total up to, let's see, 20 times 5 is 100 more than I already had, which I don't know how many I had, and again, talking about that in a second. 5 days of upgrade tokens for the flag, which does work on the cap upgrade, and then the Retaliator upgrade tokens, of course, work on the regular ones as well as the flag upgrade. Got the defensive structure build one, the capital cores for the flag, which did not go down in price, interestingly, and the capital cores for the regular ones, which were pretty cheap. Okay, there's all the stuff I got. Let's talk about the chests now. So I do have 2 Bonesaw Officer Enhancement chests. I do already have the Captain Gold 3-star crew and 1 other Gold 3-star crew. I've opened several chests at this point, and I'm hoping I don't get 2 single uncommons. The first one is an uncommon that I probably already have like 4 copies of. Checking the next one, we get the exact same thing I got. So I just spent 8 million points. That's 4 sets worth, 16 targets worth, and got 2 uncommon officers that I already have. So that's a little bit disappointing, and serves the purpose of people not liking the chests. Kixeye, you could have made it more exciting if you changed the drop rate or told us what we were going to get. Sorry, that was kind of disappointing. And then, of course, I do actually have some leftover chests from completing these targets. Event points don't really mean anything to me more than such little, but I do have 4 of the Retaliator chests and 1 Bonesaw one, which I will likely have to save, because as you can see, I have a few 1-hour repair tokens for the Retaliator I'm close to max on, and some Bonesaw build tokens I'm close to max on, so I'm not opening these yet. I will open them once I start to use the tokens, which will probably be day 1 of the next raid. Let's now take a look at the fleet and talk about what changes I'm planning on making before the next raid, going over the Retaliators first. So here is the build for my flagship. I am actually sticking with this one entirely because this is a damage setup. You'll notice that the combat speed here under movement is 87. My armor ship, which is number 5, is going to be combat speed of 89. It takes all the damage. There is no king killer present in these targets. So this is just overall my flag, and the changes that I'm going to make to this one just include putting on the heavy armor. I have it, I just did not have the time or want to spend a 1 or 2 day token to put this on. I'll likely get that on there with tokens I would otherwise throw away in the Forsaken mission. You will want to save 2 weeks worth of tokens between now and the next raid, because we will be getting the new assault, skirmish, whatever is next up here after, I think it is skirmish, after, well, that's not true, it's assault. Or garrison, we actually have a garrison raid coming up. Regardless, I will be making those changes with some of the tokens I would otherwise throw away, and then if I do have any more packs that are a little bit better, which looks like I have at least 1 legendary one, I will upgrade those again for free. You can make changes from the uncommons, rares, epics, etc., even the regular commons. You can change from the blueprint non-limited one if you want basically 100% for free, as long as it's changing the weapon types. If you change a sea armor to a radioactive armor, no, you can't do that for free, unfortunately, so that is just something to warn you about. So there's the flagship, and I do want to point out that the cap upgrade on the flag, let's take a look at the stats from this one. I get a flagship ballistic survival aura, so I get flagship benefits that apply to everything, as well as small amounts of survival and armor points and evade, which will be useful for just this one ship getting hit, but the flagship aura is worth doing. I will also point out that the build time for this has been dramatically reduced because it takes 10 days to do the upgrade. This is actually the one I'll start right after I finish recording this video, where in the past it was 18 days. So what Kixeye's done is they've given us, instead of having cap for just the flagship, we have cap for everything, and the build time is lowered for cap on the flag, and the build time to X1 for the regular ships actually went down as well. I haven't actually done the math to see if it is the exact same over everything or what, but I believe it's probably pretty close because 8 days less on the flag is a ton. I think X1 was a day or two less than it was per ship on the last one, so that's just something to point out for you there. So that's my plan for the flag. Taking a look at my other 3 regular damage ships, you can see that these are generally more complete. I have had more tokens and more time to do this. I will go through and check that my armor here, so my heavy armor R, I probably have a better one than the uncommon one here. I do have a ton of legendary weapons, legendary armors, etc., because I've just had these ones for longer, and I'll continue to make the same changes to those. Now, taking a look at the cap upgrade for the regular ships that are not the tank, survival is only relative to the small amounts of splash damage these ships get. Armor points, again, relative to the small amount of splash damage these ships get, and the evade bonus 5% is not useful if this is not the tank ship, so you don't need to do cap on my 3 regular ships, at least. I'll still do it if I can do it for free with tokens, etc., or just time, but these are going to be the dead last things I do, because there's no fleet-wide bonus from doing that. Same thing for this ship, it's actually still at U3. I will get this up to X1 so I can add the extra armor, and actually it does do a little bit more, it doesn't actually help on offensive in any way, but the X1 armor is nice. It will give me, you know, actually, let's see, there's really just no benefit for doing that one. I do have a ton of extra kits, and I'll have tokens to do this one. I will get this guy going up to X1, which will, again, let me do this other armor slot, and I'll get these other weapons changed up to the best ones I have, because I've probably got enough chests that I'm better than the uncommon ones. And taking a look at that U3 ship, the last one is an X1 ship, same story as the other ones pretty much. It does need to go to cap eventually if I do have more time. I'll add on the 2 armor slots if I have more time, upgrade these weapons if I do have those, but those 3 regular ships are the least important. The most important ship in the fleet is this Retaliator that's currently at X1, was the first one that got to X1, and this is the evade build. You will remember I said my normal combat speed was 87, this one is 89, and what that means is I can drive just with one hand, no macros, nothing fancy, no down button, and this ship will always be slightly closer to the enemy, and will therefore get targeted first by the turrets that are doing accuracy based, and because this thing has like 95% evade, it's got 94 right here, it will be hit first and will take all of the radioactive damage first. And because it's only driving slightly out ahead, as opposed to 1 or 2 ship lengths, the rest of the ship's fleet is not going to get damaged with insane amounts of splash damage. So if I were to make any changes to this ship in right here, it would be to change to more of the radioactive armor, rather than split of ballistic and radioactive, but I don't think we're going to do that, and get this guy going up to cap ASAP after the flag, because it will get more evade, and more armor, and more survival, all of which of course benefit this thing being hit first. Now, I do want to take a note and talk about the damage split in the raid here, because when I stacked or just autoed, or this ship right here with the mortars ended up going off and driving somewhere else because mortars shoot over mountains and the pathing is weird, my ship, whatever ship was in the second slot, just happens to be the mortar ship in this case, but you know, most of the time I was driving with it like this. The ship in the second slot would take the most damage by a considerable amount. It didn't matter if it was U2, X1, Cap, you know, I could have a U3 ship right here, which has fewer armors, less survival, and an X1, Cap 1 ship, whatever, in slot number 2, and number 2 would always take more damage. And I actually can't figure out why that's the case, but that is just something for me to note. It used to be the case that ship 1 or 5 would take more damage, because the theory was that ship number 1 moved first, and that was slightly closer to the enemies. So when you're moving towards it, number 1 is taking more damage ahead of it, and number 5 would take more damage when you're moving away, because it's the last one to move, and therefore the closest when you're retreating or going backwards. And you could see that more closely if you played around with macros, or like the built-in in-game macros, shift and then a number key. You could see that a little bit, you know, it was a little bit slower to respond. You could see some of that. That should not be the case in these targets, and number 2 should not be taking more damage, but it is. So if you do have a cap regular ship, throw that in slot number 2. And this is more relevant to people who are not building the ship that has slightly faster evade than like I am. I think that this is the kind of best way to do it, because it guarantees that this ship gets focused on. But if I take this one out of the fleet and replace it with just a regular one, number 2 does again for some reason take more damage, which I cannot really explain why. And if anyone has any ideas, let me know. It's not King Killer in these targets. You can test that yourself and check. So just to recap with the Retaliators, I will be getting the flagship upgrading ASAP. The build time is lower now, and I'll have the armors and such like that because, I can. And again, the aura right here that applies to everything is very useful. The second thing I'll upgrade will be the tank ship to cap, and then I'll do one of my U3 guys up to X1. And if and only if I have extra time, I'll do these three. We're not really expecting any new specials in Strike 3. Actually, I don't think we are for the Retaliators, but we will be for the Bonesaw. So let's now switch over to talking about this guy, and honestly, I like the ship more because I don't have to drive it. I just auto this thing and it works great. Now, talking about the build for this, I would go into refit mode, but I have damaged this guy a ton. I've got a bunch of weapons on here. I actually am almost out of teeth thicker chain guns. I don't think I actually got all of these ones fitted until this raid, but I will be adding more if those more weapon slots unlock at E9 and E10, and I will be changing the armor to be more legendary, of course, if I have some of that. I will again just warn you, the Forsaken Mission chests pay out the wrong kind. Why Kixeye has not fixed that, I have absolutely no clue. Now, we are expecting, or at least I am expecting, to have escalation specials come out for the Bonesaw in Strike 3, because we saw that 3 months ago with the other Dreadnought from the last season. So that's just something to be wary about, is we will likely get escalation specials for at least the tier 13 red ones right here. So the sacrificial cartilage will likely, we will see an escalation special. And I will of course equip the third CIC when I get that, because I only have 2 of the tendon chops on right now, because at E8 there are only 2 of the tendon chops available. And then for crews, 1 more will unlock. I do have a gold crew that I can add to this one. I will just note that the captain crew, if the name starts with captain, has to be equipped in slot 1. I was lucky enough to get the captain one, but the other ones don't really matter. You can use basically your best ones in there, and they're actually pretty easy to tell which ones are better than others. So that's the idea with the Bonesaw. I am not switching to the high combat speed build I have seen some people running with all the D5 EV armors just to try and go quickly and outrun the damage, because it's very difficult to do. And like I said, I intend to auto as much as I possibly can. If Kixeye is making us use 2 fleets to get 1 set bonus, I will be autoing with one of those fleets almost entirely. So I'm pretty happy with my build on this one. No major changes, just a few small upgrades and things to do. Now here's the part where I get to complain a little bit, because my Bonesaw is at E8, which is the current in-game max upgrade level. We are 100% going to get E9 and E10 during Strike 3, and they will cost kits. I can't actually remember how many it is. I did put it in Discord though. I think it's 150 and then 175 kits or something like that, or I should say the fragments. So I definitely need several hundred more fragments, but I have no idea how many I currently have because my Bonesaw is maxed at E8, and you can't see how many kits or fragments you have on a max hull, or one without a weapon, but that's a different story. That's kind of insane, because I'm 99% sure I actually had 100 extra going into this raid with a max ship, probably from the TLC or something like that. I haven't taken a pencil and paper and written down every time I collect the kits, and therefore I have no way of knowing how many I have and how many I would need to redeem in order to, get to, let's say I just wanted to get to E9. I probably would not have needed to redeem all 100 in the raid, and probably would have just needed to redeem 50 of those, for instance. I did put in a ticket a few days ago to ask Kixeye to check how many I had, because I think it's kind of insane that we couldn't see in game, and I would encourage other people to do so if they also have that question, with the hope that if Kixeye is inundated, let's say, by tickets and has a ton of tickets that they get, they will actually add this feature to the game that should be in there already. So I would just encourage you to put in a ticket if you want to know how many you have, and if enough people ask, they will probably end up adding that as opposed to just replying to tickets every single time. So that's just something that, might be useful for you. It hasn't actually worked for me yet because they haven't replied to me, so I ended up getting all of them, but there's no way to check for you right now, so I would likely recommend doing that. If you wanted, you could build a blank one just to see if you had tokens or kits or whatever it is, fragments. I wouldn't recommend that because that takes about a week, but you could do it if you wanted to. So there's my thoughts on the Bonesaw with that one. Overall, this was a mediocre raid for me. I enjoy getting the targets, the damage down on those, getting a few videos out on the first day with decent repair, and then figuring out the best way to auto the other 50 times 4 equals 200 targets that I do. So there's the changes that I'm going to make and the builds that I've got here. If you have any questions, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. I'm interested how this raid went for you and what changes, if any, you're ending up going to end up making to your fleets. Until next time, this is going to be Derpy, signing out, helping you be a better pirate.